Okay, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of California, my name is Ray Lutz, and I'm here to speak to you today at the Election Officials Conference here in Redondo Beach. Now, this is where all of the officials, or many of the officials from California, come out here to sort of a vacation week right after the election. And this is not just a time for them to sit around and party and take it easy, but I'm sure that's a lot of it. What usually these things are is a way for the manufacturers to wine and dine these officials and try to get their products adopted and to the various counties around. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it is the way the world works. Also, the election officials get to talk to each other and plan. And so if you ever wondered if there was something happening where they're working in concert with each other and they're doing the same kind of thing, these election officials actually have a chance to work together right here and take care of planning and scheming. You know, the definition of a conspiracy is a group of people working together for a common goal. And sure, corporations are like that, but also these officials are working together here for their common goal. One of the things they do is a legislative committee. This is where they actually look at legislation that's going through California and take a position on it. They decide whether they like the legislation or not, and then they go in and try to pressure the Assembly and the Senate of the state and the elected officials to do what they want. And unfortunately, this has been one of the big problems here in California regarding the 1% manual audit that they're supposed to do by law in the election. The 1% manual tally is mandated by the Election Code Section 15360. It's supposed to include all of the ballots cast. Cast is a very strong word. It means absolutely every ballot. Unfortunately, they're excluding in San Diego about 40% of the ballots from the audit. Other counties are following suit. None of the counties that we've checked actually do audit all of the ballots and follow the law the way it's written. And that's not the only problem, but this is the one that we're centering on here regarding what they did in the lawsuit that we filed in San Diego. Now, in San Diego, we determined that in questioning the registrar there, Michael Vu, who has a checkered history, this guy originally worked in Cuyahoga County, Ohio in 2004. He was forced to resign from that job after two of his subordinates were convicted of absentee voter fraud. As a reward for this, he went on to San Diego after only 2 to 4 months. So as these election officials gather here, they are talking about the kinds of legislation that is blocking the 1% manual tally. The official law on the book says all the ballots cast, and this group here likes to say that that doesn't include the provisionals because it was removed from the language. It says all ballots cast in the precincts. That should be enough. It's like saying all cars, and they're saying, well, you didn't say all black cars, and so you didn't mean to include black cars. And unfortunately, this group of election officials are now here apparently scheming again to violate the law. This is a little glimpse into what's wrong in America with our elections, because you have these officials here who are taking advantage of a little gathering here to figure out what to do and how to sideline our rights as voters. They like to convince each other that it's okay that it takes 30 days to become registered before an election, but they're able to wipe you off the rolls almost instantly for any reason in between elections, so you don't even know it. You get to the polls and you say, gee, I was registered, and they said, well, you didn't vote last time, and so you're no longer registered, and guess what? It takes 30 days to re-register, and so you're out. You can't do it here. There's no technical reason for it to take 30 days to register to vote. And yet you hear these guys talk. You can watch their own video where they say, hey, it's perfectly fine for us to take 30 days, or even if it's only 2 weeks. When a voter comes into the precinct, they should be able to select if they want to register right there and which party they want to be in. Instead, they're making it such that you have to file a provisional ballot to decide if you're in a different party. And therefore, these provisional ballots got sidelined in this election. In fact, they started not even calling them provisional ballots. They're sort of a black hole ballot because they started not calling them full provisionals, and they're not real ballots. There's no tracking like provisionals get. A lot of them are just disappeared into a black hole. In general, I just show this picture. It's kind of detailed, but there's 4 different groups of ballots that come in. You just got to look at these big groupings here. The top one is the ballots that were cast in the precinct itself. This is if you walk up and cast your ballot. Now in San Diego, those are paper ballots, and these are processed on election night. And we have asked for a snapshot unofficial results so we can compare with the 1% manual tally. So it's possible to do it. Unfortunately, a lot of the counties, a lot of the officials that are here today are picking the random selection months in advance. They argue that random is okay for us to know what it is. It's okay for us to know. Try that with an inspection. We're coming by for a random inspection at your place of business. Oh, but we're going to give you 2 months warning of what it is. The whole concept of randomness goes away then. These folks here, I don't know where they come from. They seem to think that they can choose a random selection several months in advance, and it's just as good as if you did it as a surprise on the spot. We want these results here cast in cement, frozen, so that we can check with the precincts that they do select in the 1% manual tally. That's what we're calling the Snapshot protocol, which is an oversight protocol which Citizens Oversight is promoting. We want citizens in all counties to help us with this so that we can get very careful oversight of our elections process. No one is doing this. The officials here today seem to just think they can get away with anything. So that's why we're the only people here. The citizens are the ones that must defend our vote, or defend our audit. The second group of ballots are the ones that are vote by mail ballots cast early and are able to be processed before election night. We also got a snapshot in San Diego for these, but they started choosing batches and there was no way to match them. So we complained. Michael Vu said, no, I'm not going to give you the results batch by batch. Basically giving us the finger. Respectfully, he said. I respectfully deny your request. Thank you for the respect. But next is additional vote by mail ballots that are processed after Election Day. You know, in San Diego, it took nearly a month to process all these ballots. And there's no reason that it should take that long. We have automation here in the United States. We can process this stuff, and many of the vendors inside here have products that will allow this to occur very, very quickly. And then finally, the provisional ballots that are many of them were sidelined. A regular provisional is a ballot where you went to the wrong precinct or you didn't have your vote by mail ballot to surrender. Those are legitimate provisionals. But if you happen to be a nonpartisan voter who comes to the precinct and asks for a crossover Democratic ballot, which happened to a large extent in this election, you were treated like a provisional. You were told to sign up as a provisional and sign the ballot. But in San Diego, these have become a black hole. We don't know what has come of these because now they're saying there were no more provisionals as in any other election. And that just doesn't make any sense. Furthermore, the results of the 1% manual tally in these polls ballots that were processed on election night, and they didn't have any chance to manipulate the contents of the ballots or maybe add marking or white out the ballots, which was occurring for the vote by mail ballots and the others provisionals, this whole set down here. These had to be processed quickly, so no chance to manipulate. And guess what? Bernie Sanders won 58 to 41% in this group. In this group here, the vote by mail ballots that were audited, it was flipped. Hillary Clinton won 58 to 41%, almost to the fraction of a percent. It was flipped. It almost is scary looking at those figures, as if they substituted Clinton for. We are taking it to court, sir. We have some people over here that want to heckle. You want to speak? I invite you to come up to the microphone and explain yourself. We're taking it to court. We've got all you guys elected officials. You'll be in court and you'll have to answer to it. You want to talk about it? Why are you not auditing? Are you an election official? Are you an election official? Okay, so you don't even know what you're talking about. These election officials over here are not even counting many, or they're not including it in the manual tally. We have a heckler back here who thinks he knows what he's talking about, probably doesn't know what he's doing. He's a what? Okay, come up to the microphone. Come on up. Let's hear from you. Come up here and speak, sir. Come up here and speak. We got thousands of people watching this. Come up and speak if you have guts. Come on up here. Okay, they don't really have much to say. These guys sneaking around just like you saw, yelling from the back room as if that's the way to conduct business. I challenge anybody here who's in this meeting. You come up here and if you don't just yell from the back seats. Come up and make your statements to the world. Come on up here. Make your statements, sir. Come on. Here's somebody coming. Great. We have an election official of some kind here who wants to make a statement. Come on up, sir. Sir. Thank you. Say your name.
Not affiliated with this group, but I used to be for 24 years. I was the registrar of voters in Contra Costa County. You can make these allegations. You have the right to look at every ballot that was cast. Go to court. And you haven't done that. Go tell a judge to give permission to look at every ballot, and then you can decide how it actually turned out.
Okay, sir, let me tell you something. We are in court. We have 3 lawsuits open right now. So to say that we're not in court is just false. Well, we are in court. That's where we are.
You're not in court. You're standing out here in the corner of
we're making a statement.
Allegations against folks.
Yes, because I'm making. It's a free country, sir.
Yeah, it is.
You want to make another statement? Open mic.
I think you're doing a disservice by trying to scare people when, in fact, go get the facts. Go to court. You have the right in my county and Indy County to look at every ballot that was cast, and you can sit there and hand count them. Can you not?
Sir, what our lawsuit, the first one is about, is the audit, the 1% manual tally. In the law, it says the audit will be of all ballots cast. Section 15360. Yes, it does. This is in court right now, and these counties are omitting. In San Diego, 285,000 ballots are being omitted from the 1% tally.
You're making an allegation that registrar of voters have flipped the votes, and I completely dismiss that unless you can actually factually show me that. Not innuendo, but actually show us those ballots were flipped.
That's what we're working on, sir. We are working on showing you. We are working on the fact that the election officials are in violation of the law.
Oh, in violation?
They are not doing the 1% manual tally as it is prescribed by the election code.
Go to court.
I see people shaking their head no, as if it doesn't happen.
You're disenfranchising voters.
No, I'm not. We're trying to get people to understand how these election officials are having a little party here, scheming about how to screw up the elections because they're not following the election code, and they've got their you've got your
this group is scheming to screw up the election.
You've got your legislative committee where you guys have actually worked on eliminating the provisional ballots from scrutiny. We've got, maybe we can scan, can you scan any of those? We've got election officials here who are not used to people talking to them, who are not used to First Amendment rights to vote, to talk about what they're doing. We've got election officials here that are used to a little powwow with nobody here watching them. We're talking about election officials that are in violation of the law clearly. And Michael Vu, after I asked him, why aren't you including all the ballots, all the vote by mail ballots, he said, I just declined to do it because it's too hard. And there were 8 other counties that admitted that they were not doing it correctly. So these clowns that you see here who say that everything is fine, I beg to differ. This election was far from fine. And there's so many things that are wrong with it, and I'd like to enumerate those right now. First of all, the habit of modifying ballots using whiteout and enhancing marks by voters, all with no scrutiny or checks and balances. This was admitted by Michael Vu in San Diego, and I don't know how far it goes. I've only heard of one other registrar of voters that's ever done this, and it was by a guy in Cuyahoga County. Oh yeah, that was Michael Vu too. So maybe he's the only guy in the state doing it. I hope so, because those ballots are supposed to be sacred. Provisional and vote by mail ballots have not been counted due to various improper ploys, such as no proper address or failure to provide a signature. No proper address is explicitly excluded from any kind of screening process for vote by mail or provisional ballots. Yet, these election officials are throwing out provisional ballots based on an address that didn't match. An address that didn't match. Sometimes only by the room number in colleges. Yeah, they're not in a dorm right now. They don't have a room, and that's why they don't have that room number. But you know what? They're not even supposed to compare the address. No party preference voters were given ambiguous and misleading notices in writing prior to the election, including a soft deadline to provide their NPP voting preferences and in advance of the election. When they failed to respond by the soft deadline, many of those voters assumed they couldn't make it because of the deadline. But that wasn't actually a hard deadline. They still could have voted. Many MPP voters were not properly informed by poll workers of the right to receive a Democratic crossover ballot. These people today are not even working on the big problems. They're probably giving themselves A+ in there. These guys come out and argue with us about how good a job they're doing without even recognizing that this election was a complete failure. Many voters were forced to vote provisionally for a variety of reasons, and in many cases due to the fault of the registrar or the employees. You know what? The provisionals are for specific purposes, not a catch-all. Not a catch-all. And what they're doing now is they're putting the provisionals that are supposed to be for very specific reasons, and the crossover votes are not even considered in this batch. So you don't get tracking of your provisional ballot if you went into this partial dead black hole here. You can't track it because it's not really a provisional ballot. Yet they went through the screening process and many of them were diverted. I've gone to these warehouses. Security is lax. The seals on these boxes, they have numbers on them, but they're not tracked. They may be missing. When my audit of San Diego, I found 99 cases of broken or missing seals with no explanation, no follow-up, no documentation about nothing. These election officials have a bogus seal that they claim is keeping these ballots safe, but in fact it's just a sham. Those seals are not properly tracked. As I said, the 1% procedure mandated by Code 15360 was not properly used by the San Diego Registrar and many others. In fact, in their court documents, they had 8 other counties that admitted that they don't do it. And they said it's too hard. We cost too much and we don't really want to. We're just lazy, I guess. Well, you know, these election officials better learn a lesson. They better learn a lesson. The voters don't want lazy election officials. We want you to follow the law, and we want a clean audit of every ballot cast. We had a shredder truck in front of the San Diego Registrar of Voters, apparently loading up materials to be shredded. We asked them for their manifest to find out what kind of materials they're shredding. Are they ballots? Are they envelopes? We don't know, but we're very concerned. We had a systemic excusal of observers from being able to observe the count in a meaningful fashion. These little teams that are modifying, whiting out, and adding marks to the ballots, that seems like that is a violation of the sacredness of a ballot, are way in the back where you can't see them. We could not bring cameras in to observe what they're doing. We couldn't get close enough to see what they're doing. And they don't have a methodology where they have checks and balances to make sure that those are done properly. In San Diego, they have almost no documentation of what they're doing. I asked them, what is your documentation for your procedures here? I almost got zero. There's a few things that they have. They don't have written documentation because they're hiding what they're doing. And they complain we can't do it in time. We're all covered up. You see ballots going this way and that way on trucks. There's no travelers to track them. There's no documentation along the way finding out where these ballots are going. We don't know where they are. You come back to the place, you can't find documentation to say how they were handled. I have never seen any business, manufacturing business, that would handle their business like this. These election officials in here are all giddy that they did such a good job in this election. I beg to differ. They've been in a world of make-believe, where they think they're doing something good here when their whole thing is so sloppy it's ridiculous. Voters have a constitutional right to write in their preference for the listed Democratic Party candidates for president, regardless of any obstacles that they might dream up. Oh, you're not in that party. You got the wrong ballot. You don't have provisionals. We ran out. We have to white it out. These are all methods of gaming the system. Hey, maybe these guys are perfectly innocent in here, but they're allowing it to happen. Some voters are in parties they think are independent voters. The American Independent Party. Guess what? That's a big sham. It's not independent at all. But it appears first and people sign up. They thought they were independent. They thought they could vote as a non-preference voter, and they were denied. In Santa Cruz, that was held by one voter. She could vote that way. Does the election officials, do they explain that to the voter? Hey, you're in a party that doesn't really mean nonpartisan. It's the American Independent Party, which is not an independent designation. Then, since these guys have rigged it up so that you can't change your registration on the spot, oh, it's too hard. They said that in January 14th in their video meeting. How long why can't we get registration to happen sooner? Oh, it's too hard. It takes 30 days. That's way too hard for us to do registration. Are you kidding me? This is a day of computers and the internet. You should be able to get people to register on the spot. That's not their vote. That's just tracking who the people are. And if they can vote. Oh, they want to lose it. They want to screw it up. They want to have these provisionals. I guess so, because all these little guys here have their little fiefdoms of they don't get along, they don't follow standards, they don't have a methodology across the board for California. Now, you go to each county, everybody's different. Now, we've filed 3 cases. We're going to be filing more in other counties for the malfeasance going on here in California. We hope to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, no, do we have proof that they've been manipulating the election? Not yet, because it's only early in the process of recounting these ballots. Let me tell you something. If Bernie Sanders wins in this first batch 58-41, and then the next batch it's reversed 41-58, I've never seen that before. Yeah, it's a little bit different between vote by mail and regular ballots at the precinct. Yeah, they're going to diverge a little bit. These are the same precincts and the same 1% that was actually counted by hand. These down here, 285,000 ballots, 37% of those cast excluded from the audit. You could fix the entire election just with these. Just with these. And then with the whiteout, maybe some Bernie Sanders voters here, let's throw those into the black hole bucket. Let's white those out. There's so many, many ways that these election officials could alter the election. Or look the other way and allow a hacker or a compromised employee to do it. And maybe that's the way it's being done. These guys here like to be able to say, oh, I don't know anything about anything going on. Everything's fine. And by the way, if you want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can recount the ballots if you want. Guess what? That's too much money to do an audit. It's too much hard to do an audit for regular voters to be able to go in there and recount it. I just talked to a company here who has machines that will do a machine audit. $75,000 to do a 100% audit. Doesn't sound too bad, but let's have some people step forward and donate the $75,000, or maybe these election officials will donate. I'll take credit cards right now of any election officials that want to donate to the fund to do a recount in this election in San Diego. This is where Michael Vu, who had to resign in Cuyahoga County, wound up. Apparently paid off for his dirty deed in 2004, fixing the election between Bush and Kerry. His two subordinates admitted to stacking the deck. They had Kerry, Bush. They said, how did that ever happen? That doesn't happen in real life. They had to admit that they went in and pre-counted the ballots so that in the audit it would come out right. Oh, that's a good way to run an audit. Let's pre-count it. That way we don't have to do any more work. The audit looks good. You guys, these guys for the results of the audit. Not even posted on the Secretary of State's website anymore. The Secretary of State decided they don't want to post the audit results. Yeah, you can do a lot of work and try to dig it up out of 58 different counties if you're really diligent. What is going on in our Secretary of State? Why don't they keep the results of all the audits? Why is it us that have to do all this work when they should know that their counties are not following the law? Sure, we want to recount all this entire election and we're going for contesting it so that we can nullify the whole thing. Of course, the media, they've already gone on their merry way, but you know what? This is not about this election for us. This is about fixing a broken system. A broken system that these election officials inside are responsible for. And dreaming and patting themselves on the back about how good it is. Meanwhile, they're allowing this dirty deed apparently to go down. So many things wrong with this election, it makes you sick. It's sloppy. It's ridiculous. It's a F minus. I can't go on. Now look, in 2008, we spent 2 years auditing and reviewing the San Diego Registrar of Voters. Citizens Oversight tried to figure out exactly what they're doing. We published a whole report. This thing has, nearly 100 pages in it. Recommendations, findings, what happened. The 99 seals that I mentioned that were broken or missing, not followed up. The main concern, nothing is documented. Procedures that you don't know what they are. And when we observed the manual tally selection, they chose batches to start with. I said, where is that in your procedure? Well, we don't have anything in our procedure for vote by mail ballots. Then what are you doing here if you don't know what you're doing? You're just following a procedure from your head? Then, when we filed the lawsuit, they said, oh, we're forgetting about all these batches. We're doing it by precinct now. We decided to change our mind. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I urge you to help us out here. Citizens Oversight is just a small organization. We do have people that are volunteers, but we urge you to come together in your community and help us audit these elections and make these officials do the right thing. Because only the citizens can truly audit the elections. You can never depend upon these clowns in this building right here. We've already noticed what they're regularly doing. They're going to their legislative meetings and arguing for less audits. They're going forward and lobbying the Assembly and Senate of the state and saying, we don't want to have to audit all those provisionals. That's too much work. They actually did that. That was one of their findings. They urged, we don't want those provisionals. Take that out of the law. Too much work for us to do a complete audit. We'll figure it out, folks, because the citizens demand a complete audit. We're going to continue to work on this auditing problem because you know what? If these elections are not properly audited, then you can have massive malfeasance. You can have this election, you can have people on the inside move tens of thousands of votes in the central tabulator. No one will know because it doesn't come out in the manual tally unless they happen to choose those few precincts. If they choose them in advance, 2 months, like Fresno does, like Imperial does, I don't know how many other counties choose their random precincts in advance. What the hell is that for? You can just plan not to hit those precincts and you're done. If instead you have it chosen later, then you just go back to the computer and rearrange the votes and no one catches you either. The only way we can catch it, and that's only 50% of the time, is if this result is frozen and we get a file here, which we requested from all counties in the state with a month's notice prior to the election. And only about a half a dozen complied with our request. The rest went through the loops. Public records request, we can't do that right now. It's a record that doesn't exist yet. That's something in the future, blah, blah, blah. Instead of complying and saying, okay, we'll give you the election, results, and we'll give it to you so that it's fixed before we choose the random precincts. So folks, let's come together. Let's have everybody in their district form a chapter of citizens oversight. We want to help you work together. We want to help you know how you can provide strict and careful observation, oversight of this 1% manual tally procedure. It's hard to do it 58 counties. You know what? It's really only the top dirty dozen or about the top 18 that are really significant. LA is about 3 times bigger than any other county. Then San Diego and Orange are next. And LA is the biggest, San Diego, Orange, and so forth. The Southern California is about half of the votes. But there's no reason why we can't have a good audit in all counties. Real small counties, this doesn't matter because they're recounting the entire county. So someplace like Alpine County, you're good. You're good. Who was the most cooperative? Santa Clara County. Very cooperative, but they're still violating the law. They're not doing a full audit of the election. Shame on you, election officials. Shame on you for violating the law knowingly when we told you it was against the law in the code and you proceeded to continue. We told Michael Vu on the 10th of June. He had plenty of time to do it. He said, we decline your request. Then he certified the election without doing the proper audit. Now, is an election really certified if you didn't do it right? Or should you be taken out of office for lying? All of these election officials here today probably should be removed from office because they certified an election knowing that they weren't following the law. Because citizen oversight, we sent them an email notifying them of their failure to comply. Let's come together, let's get citizens in every district to provide oversight of these election officials. Let's make sure they do a proper and complete audit. If it takes taking them to court again and again, like I guess it will, then let's do that. We've already done it in one case. We filed 3 cases or 4 now. And we are planning to try to diagnose this election and find out exactly what went wrong. Why isn't the Secretary of State doing a report on all these provisionals? Is it because he's a Democrat and he likes the result? Is it because he was campaigning for Hillary Clinton and he likes the result? What a shameful thing for a Secretary of State to do. Alex Padilla, shame on you for campaigning for one of the candidates in the election that you are holding. This problem goes across the country. California is not alone. California actually has a law that mandates a 1% manual tally. Many states like Arizona, they don't do it at all. Or if they do, they choose the precincts long in advance and then it's worthless. So we've got to put, this is probably the most important issue that we can work on. Why? Because if we can't know for sure that our elections are conducted properly, then what else is there? Are we gonna, the clean elections, spending money cleanly, that doesn't matter anymore. You may as well get out of that one. All the pep rallies and so forth that you go to, they're a waste of time because the result is already predetermined. And who determines this result? Looks like status quo determines it. Whoever's got the money right now, they like it the way it is. And whoever that candidate is that says status quo, I'm going to continue to make my money, then maybe they're the ones behind all the rigging in these election systems. The rigging that these officials put up with at this meeting right behind me. So come together. Get your groups organized. We have November coming up. We want to make sure that these elections officials are doing the right thing. We want to make sure that they come to their senses and start to do a complete and reasonably, a clean audit. They've got to do all of the ballots and they've got to select them randomly so it's a surprise. Because if you don't make it a surprise to people, even within your organization, all bets are off. The protocol is broken. Our protocol, Snapshot protocol, is very simple. We get these data files for along the way, and then demand that they, and watch them choose the precincts or batches as it may be after these files are frozen. That's what it amounts to. And we need to work together to make sure that they're doing that, because 58 counties, it's very hard for a small organization to be able to cover it all. But we can do it if we work together. We can cover this if the citizens come together, form these chapters in your elections districts, and make sure that when November comes around and subsequent elections, that these guys aren't getting away with murder like they have been. The people come out here, I'm sort of surprised. Oh, what are you guys talking about? Everything was fine. You can recount the election if you want. You mean they're not upset about what goes on here? Are they just asleep? I guess so. These guys are so far asleep, they don't even know that this was a disaster of an election. Well, that's enough said from me. So I'll tell you what. I talked to the folks inside. They said it cost $75,000 to do a full recount of a 250,000 ballots in a small county. That's a lot of money for a small organization, but it's not a lot of money if we can all donate to citizens oversight and we can get that money up so that we can do a full audit, maybe using one of these nice machines they have here. You know what they do? They take a snapshot of every single ballot so you can see it. You can go back and check those markings. Why aren't the rest of the counties using that? It's because they like to be asleep at the wheel. They like a system that can be hacked. They like a system that's sloppy and non-documented. I guess, because that's what these guys are doing. And the only people that are trying to slap them into consciousness is citizens oversight. Who else is here? Is the media here investigating this white-collar crime ring of conspiracy behind us? No, they're not investigating it yet. They should, though, because something is wrong here. And it may not be these guys here because they're looking the other way, but they're allowing it to happen. It's like the kids at school. One guy looks off his paper and positions it up so the girl next to him can copy off the the marks. He didn't cheat, but he let her cheat. So he's fine, isn't he? That's how these election officials are. They say, oh, we're fine. We didn't actually cheat, but you know the result shows otherwise. Something bad happened in this election. A lot of people were disenfranchised, and there's hardly any talk about it. Meanwhile, they go to their legislative meeting and work around the system, to game the system for themselves, just to save some money, and not follow and create a true audit. Do they not know what an audit is? I guess not. Well, that's enough said. I've gotten myself enough upset here talking about these election officials and their junket here in Redondo Beach. This is like the meetings that the CPUC has over in Warsaw, Poland. They're usually sponsored by the big companies and the ones with the money. They're wined and dined. Oh, it doesn't cost much to come to the conference, but then you get to go to the Trump golf course. And this group is worried about listening to the Trump debate. They said you can record the Trump debate. I think that's a little bit inappropriate for elections officials to be talking about whether or not you should record a debate. Bottom line, we have a lot of work to do, citizens. We have to get together. We have to work together. We need to get a pool of money together so that we can take big steps to slap this state back into line. Rest of the country, we need to do the same. Some states do have a 1% manual tally. We need to implement a snapshot protocol like I've been talking about in those states as well. The only way we can do it is across this country to have teams of oversight citizens at every single election district that watches the election happen, watches those vote by mail ballots come in 10 days before the election. They get to start counting these. Were we there 10 days in advance watching it? I hate to admit that we fell down on our role as citizens overseers here by not going in 10 days in advance to watch these guys do it. But that's what it's going to take. And nowadays, the vote by mail ballots are the ones that are the most insecure. In counties where you use a voting machine, you have a right to ask for a paper ballot. Do not vote on a voting machine. There's no way to audit that. Orange County voters, do not use voting machines in the precinct. All you got to do is say, please give me a paper ballot. They have to by law. You vote on that paper ballot, and then it can be included all the way back to where you put your marks on the ballot. If you don't do that, then you're at the whim of the voting machine. Who knows what happens inside a voting machine? Only the hackers do. So ask for that paper ballot in all those precincts where you use it, and go to the polling place and vote, because the vote by mail ballots are completely out of control. They're not including many of these in the audit. And the ones they do, you don't know what's happening in the meantime. Michael Vu is whiting out ballots, adding marks to them. Are you kidding me? No oversight. I asked the guy who watches this to make sure they're not adding new marks wherever they want. Oh, they've been here a long time. They're trustworthy. I don't know who they are. Are we supposed to, as citizens, trust some guy who's just adding marks to ballots? I can't even believe it, I gotta tell you. It's frustrating when you actually look into the beast here and see what these guys are up to. They're all happy-go-lucky inside as if everything is fine. They're giving themselves A+. Oh, we did a good job. Now we're all tired. Let's go to Redondo Beach, sit back and play golf on the Trump golf course. It's time to slap these guys up. Wake up, election officials. Do your job. Take care of the manual tally audit. Do a complete and clean audit. Choose your precincts randomly after the result is frozen. Don't do it ahead of time like Fresno does 2 months and then flips everybody off and says, we're doing a manual tally, but you know what? It's all fake. The manual tally is never going to find anything if you know what the precincts are in advance. Who would ever modify those? You would just avoid the 16 or so precincts. In San Diego, there's 16 out of 1,522 precincts. That's easy to avoid 16. You just change another 1,000. And you still have 500 to slop to that you didn't change. Come together. Let's work together as teams in your counties. Join citizens oversight. Let's get a pool of money together. Let's audit this election. It's not over. We need to make sure we tell them we are not happy, and we are going to make sure we find out and get to the bottom of this. Thank you very much. I'm Ray Lutz with Citizens Oversight. Come to our website.